Terminator 3. Here we go. Chapter 3 of the Terminator Original Trilogy saga, I guess you could call it. Yeah, like I said, a lot of people don't like this movie at all. I got a soft spot for it, and I'm going to do my best after explaining the plot of the movie to explain to you why I think it is a worthy sequel. Not as good as T2, don't get me wrong, but it's good enough to be counted as the actual timeline, in my opinion. So, stay tuned for that. Spoiler alert, of course, I'm going to be talking about the film and the scenes in it and how it goes and all that jazz. So, yeah, you've been warned. Alright, let's get right into it. So, it's a little bit different than the other two. You don't start off with the Terminator theme, which that does break my heart a little bit, and that will reflect the final score a small amount. You do hear it at the end, so that's good. They didn't omit it entirely, but yeah. The future war part is a little bit different. It's not just boom, you're in the future war. It shows John Connor sort of basically doing a monologue and showing him working, doing construction work, and he's been living off the grid essentially. So he said he's going along and he's like, the future isn't written, fate is what you make of it. And then he's like, I wish I could believe that. I really did. And then they show a clip of a nuclear explosion, and John has his, he says we stopped Judgment Day, but he can't help but fear that it's not over yet. And, I mean, he's right to fear that because this movie exists, right? If it was just John being paranoid for 2 hours, it would be a pretty boring-ass movie. So he's right to be worried. The way they show the future war this time is John's got a beer bottle and he drops it off the bridge. And it falls into the water, and they pan out of the water, and then they show skulls underwater, and then slowly you can see the light shifting to beams of light, and then you see a hunter-killer above the water, and then it zooms out to all the crazy future stuff. So that was a neat way to show it instead of just throwing you in there. So I like that. That was good. John, anyway, after all this, John wipes out on his bike, and he's injured, and he's got to go find some medication, some antibiotics. But living off the grid, he can't just go to a hospital, so he decides to break into a veterinary clinic. I guess that's the lowest chance of being caught, because if you break into a doctor's office or something, it's a little bit more high security, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, it's more low-key to break into a vet, so he does that. Meanwhile, wow, we got the beautiful time bubble. Pops into, a window display of a store, and you see all the mannequins melting and stuff, and lo and behold, we have our new future Terminator, which is called the TX. So this is a model that is the most advanced model that has ever been created by Skynet up until this point. Yes, more advanced than the T-1000 from the original movie. Again, I'll go into a little bit more when I'm defending this movie at the end to explain why it actually is more advanced than the liquid metal one. A lot of people argue it, but I will explain. Anyway, TX pops in, naked, always, because you can't take clothing, right? So she needs clothing. So she sees this woman in a car, she walks up, and the woman sees this naked woman approach. She's like, oh my god, are you okay? I like your car. So anyway, clearly she's dead. You hear the neck snap, and the next scene it shows her driving off in that car wearing the same outfit. So, good on you there, TX. TX is played by an actress by the name of Kristanna Loken. I don't know what else she's in. Oh, she was in Blood Rain, I think. But she does a pretty good job of being this robotic Terminator or whatever. Anyway, again, she's more advanced. You can kind of tell just by the way she's using language. It sounds way less robotic than the T-800, for example. Kind of probably similar line of programming and logic and all that stuff that the T-1000 had. She also has she has an endoskeleton and liquid metal. I think they show that relatively quickly into the movie. I can't remember. Anyway, she gets pulled over by a cop, and she sees the sign of Victoria's Secret, and it's like, what is sexy or something like that. I don't know what it says. It's something like that. Anyway, she makes her boobs grow bigger. It's like, okay. So, like, there are scenes in this where I understand why people are like, oh, come on. But, like, just, it's... T2 had moments like that, too. So, I mean, you can't praise one and, like, shit on the other for them both doing the exact same thing. Really. I mean, not the exact same thing, but... Anyway, the goofiness... There's a couple more goofy things, actually, the next scene where Arnold shows up. So this model is a T850. So it's technically a T800, but it was modified to be slightly more advanced. Kind of like what they keep doing to, like, fighter jets, you know what I mean? Like, they had the F-18, then they had the Hornet, then they had the F-18 Super Hornet, where they, like, advanced it enough to make it functional, like a step ahead, whatever. Anyway, so T850, it has a little bit better, it has, like, basic psychology programs and stuff in it that the T800 did not have and all that. Anyway, it's sent to protect Catherine Brewster, who had gotten a phone call because there's an emergency. Some lady, her cat is sick or something, and she's like saying it has pneumonia and you have to come. And so Kate's just like, oh, for fuck's sake. And her fiance is like, oh, really? You're going now? She's like, yeah, I mean, we gotta do what we gotta do, right? Anyway, gets there and sees pill bottles on the ground. She's like, oh, great, junkies, perfect. That's what we need right now. Anyway, she's about to call the cops, and John steps out holding a gun. He's like, yeah, don't do that. And she's like, okay. Puts the phone down. Then she notices, oh, you're holding a paintball gun. Okay. So she quickly disarms him. He's, like, still out of it from the drugs. And she's like, yeah, like, these are used to, like, chemically neuter dogs. And I guess that catches him off guard because he's still kind of drugged. She throws the pill bottle and he, like, fumbles, and she grabs the gun and paintballs him and throws him in a kennel. And there's the mighty John Connor. Dazed, confused, paintballed in a cage. Savior of our world. Okay, so that happens. Then the Catwoman shows up, and she's like, yeah, he's sick. And she's like, it sounds like a fucking hairball. Did you wake me up for help? It's not a hairball. It's pneumonia. Where's the doctor? It's 5 a.m. He's probably asleep. So just wait in the room and I'll be right back. Anyway, she goes back to talk to John, and, like, whatchamacallit, she... Oh, sorry, but the whole time, too, so the TX has about, 8 or 9 or 10 targets or whatever in its programming. She's able to connect to the internet via a cell phone, so she just holds the cell phone up and connects to it and gets internet Wi-Fi, and so she's able to look up the police records. So she's, like, way more advanced than any previous model in that regard, where she can just get into something just with, like, Wi-Fi, basically. So that's a whole other threat that we're dealing with now. She gets her targets. One of them's at a drive-through, so she drives through and it's like, Jose so-and-so? He's like, yeah. And she drives up and just shoots him right through the window. Clean, efficient, no jokes or anything. Drives off. Like a legitimate hitman woman. Whatever. There's another house party, and he's like, Michael and so-and-so, blah, blah, and he's like, yeah, I'm Mike, my sister's upstairs. Shoots Michael point blank, kills him as all the kids are screaming, starts heading upstairs, cuts away. Anyway. Kate Brewster, which is, our hero here, is the next on the target list. So when TX shows up, you hear bang, bang, bang. And the cat lady screaming and then falling and dying, and she's like, are you Catherine Brewster? And the cat lady can't talk, and she gets a sample of blood and goes, yeah. So she can also detect DNA, which is crazy also. So, I mean, this thing is like, oh my god. That's a step up from everything, pretty much. So, anyway. She's stalking around looking for Kate Brewster. Then she finds another rag on the ground of blood, and she's like, huh, okay. She grabs it and touches it, and then John Connor, primary target, she, like, they make her have, like, almost like a robot orgasm at discovering John Connor, so that was kind of funny, too. Ridiculous, but funny. Not actually, but, like, it kind of looked like it a little bit. Anyway, whatever, it doesn't matter. So she knows John Connor's there. She finds Kate. She's like, where is John Connor? Where is he? Blah, blah, blah. She's like trying to get away in the car, and she like rips the door off and has her by the neck and whatever. Anyway, this is where our friend T850, who has just come from a woman's night at a strip club where he disrobed one of the male strippers who would have done that anyway, but did it faster, and took a vehicle, a truck, and headed on out. There's a goofy scene where he puts on like the star sunglasses and then he like throws them down on the ground because that's ridiculous. Like, he's not gonna wear that. Anyway, finds normal glasses later, but anyway, because you gotta have the sunglasses. It's Terminator. Come on, it's gotta look cool, right? Anyway, he shows up. Boom! Truck hits TX right into like a giant like propane tank thing. Boom! Explosion. Arnold gets out. He starts walking towards Kate. John sees him and is freaked right away. He's like, are you here to kill me? He's like, no, I'm here to protect you. And he's like, okay, so we got a good one again. That's good, I guess. Yeah, so TX is unharmed. Completely unharmed. You see her walk out of the fire with her liquid metal forming back on, like no issue whatsoever. Then we get the crane scene, the chase, which is like one of the best action scenes that like I just it's amazing. So you got this giant ass crane. I mean, at this point, emergency crews have come and there's an explosion, so the cop cars, everything. TX is still on site. She also has the ability to hijack other machines. So she goes, the little finger drill thing goes into like a cop car, a fire truck. She has 4 emergency vehicles under her control. And in addition to that, she's hops into this giant ass friggin' crane. Like it's like a huge industrial crane. So anyway, she's driving along and these cop cars are chasing the vehicle that Catherine is locked in the back with John, and John's trying to explain to her, like, listen, and she's like, you asshole, like, I recognize you, you're in so-and-so's basement, we like made out when we were kids, you're kidnapping me, you're a prick, whatever. And he's like, listen, do you like knock knock knock? Terminator opens the door. Like, explain to her who I am. John Connor, protect the resistance, blah, 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 blah. And she looks at him and he's like, okay, and then who's he? And he's like, he's a robot from the future. He's a cybernetic organism, cyborg covered in. She's like, shut the fuck up. Like, she doesn't believe that. Like, give me a break. Anyway, that's when the 4 vehicles converge on this vehicle. Sorry, Arnold's not in it. John is driving. She's there. Arnold is following in a police bike that he stole. My apologies. My bad. Why does it matter? It does. So this crane is tearing shit up. Like, at one point, to try to cause more damage to stop this vehicle in front, she's moves the crane out so it's like hitting cars and sending them flying forward. So cars are being thrown at the car that John's driving, and it's ripping down like phone lines, smashing through the sides of buildings and stuff, and it's so good. It's so good. Meanwhile, these 4 emergency vehicles are slamming into the side of John's vehicle, trying to like run it off the road or whatevs. And I mean, once in a while, one will get taken out just by the sheer madness of everything that's going on. She has a plasma gun inside her like endoskeleton, so another upgrade. None of the other Terminators so far have had like a projectile weapon inside built into them, so that's like another huge oh shit. So she's shooting plasma things, hits this looks like it's carrying propane canisters or something again, that explodes, and they drive through it, and the crane smashes right through it, and it's just going crazy. And that's when she sees Arnold in the rear mirror with his shotgun shooting out the tires one by one, but this crane has like 46 tires or whatever, so it's gonna take a while, but she's not having it. So she swings the crane around, knocks him off the bike. Arnold's stuck on this crane, like the hook part, and he's holding on for dear life, and she's going through like window displays of buildings on the side, and so Arnold's just smashing through all this shit. It's so good. Like, I can't even, obviously you can hear the joy in my voice reliving this moment that I literally just watched. It's so good. Then there's a fire truck coming the opposite direction, and Arnold's... You see the TX look, you're like, yeah, this is good. Anyway, smash Arnold on the fire truck, and the fire truck carries him off. And he punches through the window and says, "Get out," or like, "This is my ride," or whatever the hell he says. So he's in the fire truck now, turning around, chasing this crane. And to put in perspective how this crane is huge, like the fire trucks are big. The fire truck's like this, the crane is like this. And they're about the crane's like this high, the fire truck's like that high. So it's like, it's moving it a little bit, but I mean, it's not doing a hell of a lot. Like the crane weighs probably like more than like 14 of those fire trucks, so it's still a little futile, but it's still, you know, he's giving her. Anyway, he whatchamacallit. Right, anyway, so they eventually, he puts I can't speak English, I'm very sorry. The hook, thank you. He sees the manhole, puts the hook down the manhole after roughing up the TX and getting knocked to the back again. So you see the thing smash through the manhole, and it's ripping through the street a little bit and gets snagged. And then you see the line slowly or quickly unreeling. And TX is still chasing, just like whatever. She doesn't realize what's happening until she sees the warning on her thing. She's like, oh shit. Anyway, things going, the friggin' wire stops. Boom! The whole friggin' crane like flips, wheels are flying off, smash. So good. Okay, that's just like one scene and I'm rambling on way too long. Anyway, let's proceed to the rest of the movie, shall we, instead of dwelling on this one scene that's absolutely brilliant. So, okay. TX gets out. She's liquid metal, completely unfazed. The only damage, I think, is her primary weapon, the plasma cannon or whatever, is damaged. But she has, like, 12 other weapons in her arm that she can replace it with. So she's going through, and there's, like, a saw, like a little, I think, like a rail gun or something. I don't really know. It goes by too fast to really see, but she stops on, like, a flamethrower. And this guy in a semi who's, like, stopped is, like, looking as she's shooting flames out of her arm, and he's like, what the fuck? Anyway, so. That's that. Anyway, they've lost her for now. And John is like, okay, listen, do you even remember me, to the T850? And he's like, no, that was a different T101 model. He's like, oh, okay, like, what do you guys, come off an assembly line or something? And he's like, exactly. Which, I mean, they do, right? So he says, okay, we got to go to a safe place, and he takes them out to the middle of the desert, and they end up in this graveyard area, like not a mausoleum, like a crypt, is that what it's called? I don't know. Like where the people are, like, they have their plaques on the wall and the coffins are in the wall or whatever, one of those. Anyway, this is where John sees Sarah Connor. Birth date to 1999, and then he explains that basically Sarah had been diagnosed with leukemia. She was given 6 months to live, but she fought through it for 3 full years just to make sure Judgment Day didn't happen. And when it didn't happen, she finally, I guess, gave up on life and passed away. And John's like, man, I didn't even know where she was buried. As soon as she died, I ran. Why did you take me here? And then without saying anything, Arnold just smashes right through Sarah Connor's plaque, and John's like, what are you doing? He's pulling the coffin out. He's like, oh my god, what the hell? Anyway, opens it, and sure enough, there's a store of weapons in there. It's Sarah Connor. She's got a backup plan. You know she does. Even when she's not alive, she's got a backup plan. So John realizes that it's not a body, and he's like, okay. And T850 is just like, Sarah Connor's ashes she was cremated, and her ashes were spread out in Mexico by her friends and family or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, so she did have a good send-off, and he's not, like, desecrating her grave. Anyway, while all this is going on, the FBI shows up to Kate's fiance's place, and he, at this point, has been killed and replaced by the TX. So just like the T1000, he knows where the relatives live. He's going to look it up and figure it out. And that's what the TX did, exactly the same thing. So takes out the husband and replaces him and says, listen, I'll help you find Kate, you know. And they're like, okay. So they're driving and they get a call and they're like, oh, okay, good news, sir. Your fiance is safe. And he's like, oh, good. Where is she? And they say, the something cemetery. And that's when you see TX just punch her hand through the seat, right out the guy's chest, grab the wheel, and start taking over. The other FBI agent turns and is, like, knocked dead pretty much instantly. So she heads to the cemetery, and Kate at this point is still like skeptical of everything, so she grabs a gun and is aiming it at the T-800 and is like, get the fuck away from me, I'm leaving. And John's just like shakes his head. He's like, go ahead, do it, see what happens. She's shaking. She doesn't want to kill a person, right? Even if he's a psychopath. Anyway, he grabs the gun, but she fires quickly. Don't do that. She's like, okay, so he's a robot. All right, fair enough. Now we know. But she's too freaked out. She sees her fiance or whatever, and she goes and runs on top, and then realizes she sees the car and the dead police officer in the front, or the FBI agent in the front. She's like, okay, this ain't right. And then you slowly see the fiance's face shifting into the TX, like the Terminatrix, her normal model face or whatever, whatever model she is. I don't know what, like, Arnold is a model 101, but he's a T-800. So there's confusion because they call him a T-101, but he's also a T-850. So T-850 is the generation or technology level of that specific Terminator, and a T-101 is the specific model. There's a T-100, T-102, T-103, etc. So that is why that is kind of confusing for anyone wanting to know. I kind of wish they didn't put a T in front of it, because I think there was a T-100 generation as well. I mean, we don't see it, but I'm pretty sure there was. So it's kind of confusing in that sense. So I guess you would say like T-850-T101, and that would be like the full designation of that particular unit or something like that. I don't know. Whatever. Doesn't matter at all. That's, again, a whole other can of worms, as I like to say. So then... Oh yeah, there's the whole hearse scene. So yeah, the cops... Before the TX actually arrives, I apologize. There's a scene where Arnold walks out carrying the cop, like, drop the gun and the coffin. Anyway, he turns and he's got this minigun. He starts shooting, and they shooting at him and everything. And I mean, he's a Terminator, so he's fine. Anyway, that's when the fiance shows up. So sorry, I totally missed that. Oh, I missed another very, very good scene. So as she's recovering and the police are talking to her before Arnold comes and shoots everything up, and before the fiance, a man approaches her and is like, how are you doing? And then he's like, I'm Dr. Silberman, and yes, it's him. She's like, he's not human. And he's like, yes, I completely understand. I've been through some things that change you. Some horrible things. Unbelievable things. Insane things. And he's just like going off in his tangent, remembering the scene from T2 where he saw the, you know. Anyway, he sees Arnold as he turns with the minigun to shoot all the cops, and, seeing a ghost type face. Silberman bolts it. So that's his little cameo for this movie, which, perfection. Perfect. So good. So yeah, that happens, and then there's the hearse takes off and is getting shot at a little bit, and TX is running to jump onto the roof of the hearse. At this point, Kate has rejoined the group, so she's is she with them? I can't even remember. Anyway, whatever. TX jumps on the roof and is like cutting through the roof, and they're frantically trying to shoot up at her, and it's like the bullets aren't even making her move really. It's just like ding, 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 like that kind of stuff. And eventually Arnold's like, okay, this is useless, I gotta figure something out. There's a semi-truck coming, and he skids, and he's like, duck! And everyone ducks, and it goes under the trailer. The trailer like just saws the roof off, right? Hits the TX off, obviously. They go like down a little hill, and they drive off. He's like, we need a new car. Yeah, no shit. So they go and hijack an RV. So that's fun. Whatchamacallit. So they get the RV, and Kate's kind of having like a little bit of a conniption. Like, they killed Scott. She killed Scott because of me. And John's trying to comfort her. Like, yeah, that's. I don't even know what to say to you, like, to make you feel better. But like, literally, shit happens. He says it way more polite than that, but But yeah, I mean, he does his best. Meanwhile, there's some virus apparently. So Kate's dad is a general in the military, and this virus is taking over all these military installations. And turns out this dad is inventing a system called Skynet. Oh, okay, so Judgment Day didn't happen, but it might, basically. So I mean, even the T-850 is like, you know, John's like, we stopped Judgment Day. Like, what is the point? Why are you even here? He's like, you didn't stop it. It's inevitable. You just delayed it. And he's like, so anyway, Kate's dad invents Skynet. So that's great. And they're trying to pressure him to use Skynet to find this virus. And he's like, okay, you don't understand. Once Skynet is activated, it's in control now. And they're like, yeah, but if we don't stop this virus, nobody's in control. And he gets a call from, I think, the Pentagon or something. They're like, okay, so Skynet's in control, but you control Skynet, right? And he's like, yes. Hesitant. And they're like, okay, well then do it. So they have no choice. They turn Skynet on. And lo and behold, at this point, the TX has infiltrated this military base. She's in full uniform, whatever, walking around. No one notices because she's dressed accordingly. So whatever, has her little ID badge and everything. She's liquid metal. She can turn into anything, right? Well, within reason, obviously. She also has the endoskeleton, so she can't like liquefy into a puddle like the T-1000, for example. But she can still like change her appearance. Anyway, there's a scene where it shows Robert Brewster, that's Catherine's dad, the general guy, and he's talking. You see like a hunter-killer prototype in the background. That's the flying Terminator thing that you saw like all the way back in the first movie. So anyway, stuff's in development. They also show rows of T1s, which are the original assault unit. It's like a tracked vehicle with 2 miniguns. It's really big, it's bulky, it has like primitive and artificial intelligence, like it can scan and notice like signs of something went that way, but it's not anywhere near the intelligence of like a T-800 or the 850 for that matter, or the 1000 for that matter, or the TX for that matter, but it's the first Terminator. So anyway, she finds that and she's like, okay, this will be useful. So what does she do? Little finger drill. Let's activate these T1s. So she does. Anyway, they go on a rampage, shooting up the place. TX, she ends up shooting Robert, I believe, and he's down, and the Terminator, the T-850 attacks her, and there's like this whole bathroom fight scene, which also is brilliant. Like he like grabs a urinal off the wall and smashes it over her head, and like grabs her upside down and puts her head in a toilet, and then she like grabs him and smashes him through walls. It's so good. Like the action scenes in this are part of the reason I love this movie, but there's more to it. We'll get into that after this. Sorry. So while that's happening, basically, yeah, while all this is going on, it's basically hectic, and Robert is basically, listen, you guys, like, John's like, we have to stop Skynet, and he's like, okay, you guys have to go to Crystal Point, I think it is. Crystal Point? I don't remember. I'm going to call it Crystal Point. If I'm wrong, it's Crystal Peak. Crystal Peak. You guys got to go there. It's your only hope. And so John's like, okay, we'll go there, and if that's where it is, that's what we'll take it out. So they go. There's a plane that is in the bunker. They can get to it by going through a big particle accelerator that they have. And at this point in the story, the battle between the T-850 and the TX is coming to a climactic end where she basically curb stomps his head off almost and then reprograms him. So that's good. That's not good at all. So their one defense is now essentially one of her like little minions or thralls or whatever you want to call them. Anyway, she starts chasing him through this particle accelerator, but John's smart thinking has turned on this particle accelerator, and as it's charging up, its magnetic field is charging up, and what's made of metal? Terminators! So, you see eventually as she's firing her flames, her gun is starting to, like, spark, and boom, stuck to the particle accelerator. She looks, and she gets stuck to it, and her body kind of curls around it, and even her liquid metal is, like, coming off her face to stick to the particle accelerator, and Kate's just like, just die, you bitch. Like, just, it's sick of it already, right? Anyway, so she's stuck there. She can't even move Despite all of her programming and how powerful her hydraulics are and all that, she's stuck. It's a particle accelerator magnet. You're not gonna get off that. So they take off. They get into the plane, and then you see the T-850, and John's like, "Oh, thank God, he made it! He made it!" And he's like, "Get away from me!" And he's like, "What's going on?" She's like, "The TX has compromised me. He's corrupted my system." And John's like, "What?" And he reaches and grabs John and is throwing him around and starts choking him, and Kate jumps on his back and he just flings her off, no regard for his previous mission, seemingly. And then John's like, "What is your primary mission?" Or no, John is like, "You can fight this, it doesn't have to be that." And he's like, "My CPU is intact, I can still think, but I don't have any control over my motor functions or my movement." So basically he's watching himself do something that he's not supposed to be doing. And John is trying to get through, like, "What is your main mission?" And he's like, "To ensure the survival of John Connor and Catherine Brewster." "Well, you're about to fail that mission, bud." And he's got his hand like this, and he's just like, I guess he's fighting as much as he can, and he moves John quickly and smashes down, and he beats the shit out of this car and then shuts himself down completely. You just see his head go zzz, and he's motionless, and he's just standing there. It's like, okay, so she's like, "What is going on?" He's like, "He shut himself down. He couldn't go through with it. Let's get the hell out of here." So they do. She can fly. It's her dad's plane, and like, whatever. That's fine. They fly to this Crystal Peak place, and they land, and they get inside. And there's a huge blast door, and there's a code there, and they have this folder that Robert directed them to before they left initially, and there's codes, so it's like blue something, and then he has to look in there, and it's okay, red something something, and so they eventually do that, and the door slowly starts to open. Anyway, all of a sudden you hear a helicopter outside, and boom, through the entrance door, not the blast door, but the entrance door, you see this helicopter fly through and through the tunnel and crash, and out of it steps our friend the TX. And she's ready to roll, basically. She's about to do the killing blow, and then you hear another helicopter fly through, and it's an even bigger one, and it crashes and hits the TX and like scrapes her body around the ground, and out steps Arnold, and he's good-ish, and then that triggers the alarm, so the blast door starts going down. Arnold throws himself under the blast door, he's holding it, and like his hydraulics are fighting the hydraulics of the blast door, and it's slowly going down, but it's not, like he's holding it. He's like, "Get the hell in here, stop gawking like a bunch of idiots, go through the door." So they do. Anyway, TX is still alive. Her legs have been basically cleaved by the crash, but the rest of her is completely functional. So she is in endoskeleton form with like little bits of liquid metal on her, crawling towards Arnold, and she grabs John and like crushes his leg. You hear him scream, like she definitely like fractured his bone or something, broke his ankle or whatever. Anyway, Arnold like knocks her so that he can get free, and he ends up taking out his core, which is explosive essentially. So there was a scene earlier I forgot to mention where they're driving and he throws his core out the window, and there's like a mini mushroom cloud, so it's like a really big explosion. Anyway, he shoves that in the TX's half that's still functional its mouth, and is like, "You're terminated," and then boom, dead. Meanwhile, they're going down this elevator. Both Terminators are done at least, so that threat is gone. But now they have to get into this base and stop Skynet. They gotta take down the supercomputer, whatever it is. So they get down into the base, and they walk in, and they're looking, and they're like seeing like pictures of like space race stuff on the wall, and they're like, "What the hell is this?" They go into a room, they see a podium with a blue thing and a seal of the President of the United States, and they're looking around, and they're seeing all these computers from the 70s and like TV cameras from the 70s. They're like, "What the hell is this place?" And then it clicks on John. He's like, "Oh, for fuck's sake, this isn't Skynet. This is like a VIP bunker, only like no one was told to come here. No one was warned. That's what your dad and that's what the Terminator were doing, ensuring our survival, not that we stop it." Turns out Skynet is internet based. There is no core server. Once it gets online, it is the virus basically that was messing with everything that the military thought was just some hacker's virus. That was Skynet. So Judgment Day happens. Delayed, but fashionably late, I guess you could say. It shows clips of nukes flying all over the place and landing and hitting, and basically the whole world is a nuclear ball of doom. And then you hear the comms going off. His base is in Montana, trying to reach out, and John answers. He's like, "Hi, this is John Connor." Like, "Connor, who's in charge there?" And he like hesitates. He's like, "Me." And then you hear the guy go, "Okay, Connor, what do you got for us? What can we do? How can you help us?" And then it kind of fades away, and that's basically John becoming the unifying all these separate bases who have no control headquarters or anything like that. So, start of the resistance, I guess, in that sense. And then the movie ends, and it basically has a little monologue that says, yeah, Judgment Day happened, so, you know, it's inevitable. It was a virus, not a physical computer. There was no stopping it. And that's the movie. So, why I love this movie is, in part, a lot by that ending. So, like, they had the balls to just make humanity lose. You know what I mean? And that, I feel, is the way that the story would progress. John Connor survives. He does. That's how he survives. He's tricked into saving his own life by going to this bunker. And through that, he meets up with all these other bases that are not hit by nukes or other fallout shelters or whatever they are. Forms a resistance, takes down Skynet. Like, it's a good end to the story, and they did not need any movies after that, in my opinion. Yeah, there were some goofy things, blah, 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 but there were some goofy things in Terminator 2 as well. And there were a little bit, like, the star glasses were ridiculous. That was fucking silly. And he says, talk to the hand, but he also says in the Terminator 2, chill out, dickwad, or something. So it's like, you know, just laugh with it, man. It's fun. The action scenes were fantastic. They were so good. The new Terminator, like, it's an anti-Terminator. And, okay, so everyone is like, well, how is it more advanced if the T-1000 was liquid metal and this one still has an endoskeleton? Okay, well, so hear me out. T-1000 could not... It didn't have a projectile weapon. It had to get one. This one, it lands, it has a projectile weapon in it. And many other weapons built into its system. T-1000 can make stabbing items and like blunt objects like a mallet or a sword or whatever. This thing has a plasma gun. Now, people say, okay, whatever, that's fine, but like it's liquid metal. It could turn into a puddle and blah, blah. So, in the official like comic prequel, they show the T-1000, the TX being tested against various Terminators, takes out T-800s without an issue, and they have it face off against a T-1000. And that plasma rifle disintegrates the liquid metal nano chips or whatever and makes it effectively a puddle of metal. So it is more advanced. It is designed literally to kill every Terminator that was designed before it. It's faster, it can control cars, it can hack into Wi-Fi. It has the liquid metal, so it can still change its shape, but it has the durability of the endoskeleton. Because again, like if you hit the T-1000 hard enough, like Arnold did with a metal pole, it can like split it in half and temporarily render it useless. This you cannot. You hit that endoskeleton, and it just grabs it off and breaks your hand and kills you. So I do not see the argument where people say that the T-1000 is the superior Terminator. It just isn't. I'm sorry. I'm sure there are other reasons that I've thought of that I've had this argument with multiple times. Yeah, I'm one of those dorks. I don't instigate, though, in my defense. I don't instigate. But when someone says, T3 sucks, the Terminator wasn't even that good, well, I have to tell them otherwise. So, it is a superior model. It is the more dangerous Terminator. And that's just the way it is. I'm sorry. So, the new model, awesome. Kristanna Loken played a Terminator, like her movements and everything were good. Like you could tell that it was human enough, but something was off. Like, you know what I mean? And Robert Patrick did it amazing too. Like he was phenomenal as the T-1000. Like if I had to say who was better, it was Robert Patrick. Like let's be real. But Kristanna Loken makes it work very well. Arnold's great. Some people didn't like the guy who replaced Edward Furlong as John Connor. Some people didn't like that Linda Hamilton wasn't in it, or that they killed Sarah Connor. But I mean, it progresses the story. Like she can't live forever. She's a human, and I mean, I get it, you know. But at the same time, would I have liked to see Sarah Connor in this? Yes. Would it have been the same story though? No. I mean, so I get it. I don't know. I would rather her character die off in a manner that she's basically fighting still till her last breath to make sure Judgment Day doesn't happen. I think that was a noble way to send her out. She's had leukemia. It's a thing you can't beat. You can try, but a lot of times you can't, unfortunately. And she still fought it long enough to ensure that John was safe, and I think that was pretty good. Whereas in the new Terminator movie, the newest one, at the time of this video, what was it called? I don't even remember. Dark Fate. They have her alive, but like her character is just, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so that's great. Oh frick, this is a long video. Okay, I gotta end this now. Or not now, but I'll give me my rating. So I really like this, but I also recognize that it's not perfect. There are some things that, you know, like some goofy things that I don't think needed to be that goofy. Some people say John Connor's kind of a pussy in this, and a little bit. But again, he's human, and he thought he beat Judgment Day. Like, put yourself in his shoes. Like, how are you gonna react? You know what I mean? Like, he's not that hero yet. Neither was the kid, and the kid wasn't like a badass either. So I don't mind that either. But it's not perfect, and the fact that they didn't open with the Terminator theme, that takes off a 100th of a point. So I would give it an 8, but I'm going to give it a 7.99 because of that. That is my official rating. Should you watch it? Yes, don't listen to the reviews. Look at it the way I'm looking at it, how it completes the story arc. Terminator 1, kill Sarah Connor to prevent John Connor. Oh shit, that didn't work. Okay, Terminator 2, let's kill John Connor. Oh shit, that didn't work. Terminator 3, can't find John Connor, let's kill his lieutenants. Which, oh yeah, by the way, Kate Brewster ends up being, in the future, John's wife, and at the one point he's like, why is she important? He's like, she's your second in command, blah blah blah, she's your wife, your kids will also become important in the future, she's your wife. And so anyway, that's revealed. But yeah, so this is already over 40 minutes. That's ridiculous. I never wanted to make a video this long before, and hopefully I don't again. But I felt the need to defend this movie because it gets way more hate than it deserves, and it's legitimately a fun, stupid, but solid movie, and a fitting end to the Terminator trilogy for these reasons. If I'm missing anything, you know, if you agree, disagree, let me know. I'll be more than happy to talk about it in a civil manner. Don't worry, I'm not going to be an asshole. I value everyone's opinion. But yeah, I'd like to hear if anyone agrees with me or disagrees with me. Let me know. This is my first call out to comment. I don't usually do that because I find those videos annoying. Like, oh, smash that subscribe button. Don't do that. That's ridiculous. Sub if you like it. If you don't. Just come on. Anyway, we're getting carried away. 7.99, Terminator 3, absolutely watch it. Don't listen to the negativity. Try to look at it with an open mind and make the call yourself, because if you go in with an open mind, I feel that there's a very good chance you will enjoy it as much as I do. And there you have it. If I get a bunch of likes on these, I'll do the other 3 Terminator movies, whatever. Okay, anyway, take her easy. Bye.